is that in this area also?
Yes.
Sam Sebastian, 125 Buttonwood Street, Jessup. What is the current leakage rate for methane gas in the pipelines that serve these gas plants? And according to the new U.S. EPA directive, do you have any knowledge of that? You don't know?
I don't. I will say that there are regulations that EPA has recently promulgated.
The current EPA listing, okay, the current U.S. EPA listing are now taking another look at gas-fired power plants versus coal-fired power plants because of the amount of methane leakage from these pipelines.
Is this a question?
Yes, I'm trying to get an answer.
Get to your question, please.
Do you have any knowledge of that? No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Freeman?
Yes,
State your name, please.
Richard Freeman, F-R-E-E-M-A-N, and I'm with Winton Consolidated Companies. And I am a landowner of the Sinowit tract. Okay, I have and I want to put on the record that the corporation objects to the conditional use application because there is no signed permission from Winton for the Sinowit tract.
And just so we're clear for the record, Mr. Freeman, you and I spoke prior to the hearing. My understanding is that you're stating just a general objection to the application as it applies to the Sinowit tract, not the Pompeii tract.
That is correct. And there will be a lis pendens being filed in the courthouse.
And I explained to you, and I'll explain now on the record, that that is not an issue before Borough Council, nor is it to be considered by them as a conditional use. But I did indicate to you that you're free to place your objection on the record.
Right now, I have a specific question for the engineer.
Go ahead.
In doing the conditional use permit application, did you do an historic sites analysis in the area?
Yes, we did do a cultural and archaeological resource evaluation through the state, I believe it's SHIPO office.
Okay. Did you find any sites within, say, within the Pompeii tract or within the Sinowit tract?
No, we did not.
Have you done an analysis of historic sites through the PennDOT maps for Route 6?
The analysis was limited to the project site itself.
Okay. Are you familiar with an historic site named the Golf Miners Village?
No, I mean.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, you know what? One more. Ma'am?
Holly Petrashko, 117 Center Street.
Holly Petrashko.
Since you indicated there will be a concentration of fine particulate matter in Jessup and a higher concentration of pollution on temperature inversion days, would it be fair to say then that a smaller plant would result in smaller concentrations of those pollutants on temperature inversion days?
Again, without considering background, if you do not include background, yes to your answer.
Okay.
If you include background, there's a possibility for a different answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no others? Mr. Blazer, want to call your next one? Let me ask the court reporter, do you need time out? Counsel, anybody need time out?
Excuse me, there's another question?
Do we need time out? Mark?
No.
Jeff, I'm sorry, did you have?
Yeah, I did have a question. I
got to remind folks, all questions at once. Last chance, go ahead. Jeff,
Did you switch to the other engineer, to Mr. Wheaton? Is he available for comment now?
Yes, he was, he has been.
Oh, okay, I thought it was just we were doing everything.
No, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Okay. I've got a question about, to go back to the blast walls, that you, maybe the blast wall wasn't defined correctly. Aren't there engineering firms that specifically look at blast walls for power generation plants, whether it be for protection of employees or protection of first responders or for protection of the plant from attack in those fashions? Are there any blast walls that are going to be, since it would be a substantial target for terrorism, plus, it would also, we have first responders that are volunteers that are coming in. Is there going to be a safe area for them to respond with blast walls, or the employees that are there?
There's no code requirement or design practice to install what you're describing as a blast wall.
But there are engineering firms that specifically design for power generation plants and utility companies.
They design the facilities themselves, or I don't.
Or they
think that's-
design, they come in, they look at your design and they calculate locations for blast walls for protection.
I'm not aware of any firm that does that for a natural gas combined cycle facility. There could be other type of power generation facilities, such as a nuclear power plant, which has a completely different set of regulatory
Okay,
requirements.
so, but we could supply those to the council, the ones that do exist, so they could maybe look at at the plans to see if there would be a specific place where blast walls would help with the first responders. Or is that something that is not a,
I don't know how to answer that question.
Should have to be done through expert testimony, Jeff.
All I can suggest is that the emergency response plan is being developed in consultation with all of your first responders. I can tell you that none of them have suggested any need or any desire for blast wall. But the final plan will be the result of that consultation process, whatever it is.
not yet, but thank you, sir.
Yeah, Ron Sebastinelli, 130 Palmer Drive, Jessup. The gentleman, the expert that said about the Mayan void at 80 feet, who's that? Okay, would you be surprised if I told you I have records, borehole records, 160 feet, a 10-foot void in the same area? Would that surprise you at all? Or do you know something about it?
I am not aware of any previous
Well, I am.
geotechnical borings that were done
Yeah,
on
it'll
this.
come out in court. Here's another one. There's 20, I have found at least 20 first-time mining operations. That's not counting the people that came in and robbed the pillars. And there's no record of that whatsoever. Do you people have any records of that?
Mr. Sebastian?
Yes, does he have any records of those miners that came in later on?
No,
and what they
there's
took-
no record that.
You don't know how much coal was mined, or do you?
I do not.
So you have no idea how long those veins are? And how would you go about setting up to find the virgin ground? To build your plant, this massive plant, the vibration, noise, how would you go about doing the property, the land property? Would you put it in lifts? How far do you go? What material do you use? Do you bring material in? Do you use junk that's on site? These, what's the answers?
To which question, Mr.
Olives. All right, will you bring material in on site to build lifts and use for the plant? Or do you use the material that's there on site, that junk material? What do you do?
It depends what the application is. There will be a mixture of
Right.
engineered.
And would you go
fill
down to 160
Mr.
feet?
Sebastianelli, you must let him answer your question
Oh,
if
I'm
you're
sorry.
asking him. Please,
Too fast.
please.
The project will be constructed with a mixture of engineered fill that's brought in for certain applications where you need a crushed stone under a foundation or something like that. Existing site soil and/or crushed rock will be used as appropriate to meet the design of the facility.
And what
It's a
depth-
combination of geotechnical investigation, geophysical investigation to determine what really is in the ground right now.
Right.
That's being investigated, as well as the foundation systems will all be designed in accordance with the current codes that account for seismic and all other soil-bearing pressure, based on sound engineering.
At what depth would you start this? At 80 feet as you proposed before
For the depth of,
for the plant itself, how deep, how much material are you going to dig out to put this plant on?
there will be a combination of cut area, as you're aware, it's a.
You're gonna use that material.
Hilly site, and the
Yeah.
uphill part will be cut.
Right,
And that becomes, some of
Yeah.
that is rock, it's
Beautiful.
approximately 30 feet at its highest cut.
right,
And then there will be a fill portion
right,
on the other northerly side of the
I
site.
see.
to
You're
create a level balanced site at a single elevation of around 1,185 feet.
You're gonna use the material that's there to make your lifts and bring it up to grade.
Yes, that is a possibility to do that.
I wouldn't do it, but
Thank you. You're done, Mr. Freeman. Okay, move on.
Because they're only.
Please, folks.
Council benefit, we handed out, LNC Exhibit 15, which is, Dr. Roberts' curriculum dictated statement qualification.
Can't hear you.
Urge you all to go through it. But with that said, Dr. Roberts, could you summarize your background and experience in training?
I'm a board certified occupational environmental medicine physician. So I'm a MD. I have a PhD in epidemiology and biostatistics. Epidemiology is the study of diseases that occur in populations. It can be the epidemiology of influenza, the epidemiology of foodborne outbreaks, or Ebola virus.
Speak up. A little louder, please.
Try to keep it up, Dr. Roberts, if you can. And then, again, there's a lot of rumbling going on, so please.
Got it. Okay. And I'm licensed to practice medicine for license in Wisconsin, Oklahoma, and Illinois. The accent I have is from Illinois because I spent my first 17 years in public health in Oklahoma doing.
Yes, it sounds like Oklahoma.
Right, and not Pennsylvania.
Yes.
So I spent 17 years in the state health department in Oklahoma doing infectious diseases, but also environmentally related diseases, health concerns about cancer clusters, about emissions from Superfund sites, from various hazards that occur in Oklahoma, like fires and tornadoes, but also refineries, gasoline, petroleum refineries, and that sort of thing. Both air emissions and groundwater contamination.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Air emissions as well as groundwater contamination around refineries, for example, and in the oil field. From there, I spent 9 years teaching physicians about epidemiology and biostatistics at the Medical College of Wisconsin in Milwaukee, and doing clinic work and that sort of thing. Next 5 years was as a corporate medical director for energy companies like BP and Amoco before the Deepwater Gulf occurred. I wasn't there then. So the past 13 years, I've combined all that as a consultant with a company called Exponent. I'm a principal scientist at Exponent and past center director for the Center for Occupational and Environmental Health, and I currently reside in Chicago.
I'm going to ask you about the same ordinance provision that I asked Mr. Holland about. It's 5.231A. The project is so designed, located, and proposed to be operated that public health, safety, welfare, and convenience will be protected. Dr. Roberts, in your professional opinion, based on your knowledge, experience, the specific work that Mr. Holland and Mr. Hicks have done on this project, and the accepted science in this field, is the Lackawanna Energy Center so designed, located, and proposed to be operated that the public health, safety, welfare, and convenience will be protected?
It is my opinion that it will.
What is the basis for your opinion?
My basis of opinion is the modeling that's been done. It's a standard sort of modeling. I am not a modeler. I can't explain all that to you. That's not an area of my expertise. But in looking at it and talking with the air modelers, I think that they do a very good job of trying to overestimate, if you will, the levels. It's accepted by EPA. I've worked with EPA, not on air issues, but in other issues, and they're tough to deal with. The other thing is the fact that it's based on the NAC, the National Ambient Air Standard, which has a clean air scientific advisory council that looks at these numbers. They have to review them every 5 years. And so it's one of those things where there's a lot of pressure to reduce pollution for a lot of different areas. So they continually look at the latest modifications, the latest techniques for reducing air pollution, and they continually basically to move the numbers down. And this scientific council looks at it in terms of, is it protective of the most sensitive population or subset of the population? And that's where my public health background in medicine comes in, looking at how it affects asthmatics and the elderly that might be exposed.
Dr. Roberts, in your professional opinion, will this power plant result in a negative impact on the health of the residents of Jessup?
I don't believe it will, based on the modeling that I've seen and the numbers. So I don't believe it will. That's all I have.
I have a question, Dr. Roberts. As you can see, there's great concern about particulate matter. Tell us a little bit about particulate matter and how it affects those most concerned. The young, asthmatic, COPD, the elderly. It affects, particulate matter would affect them in a negative manner, obviously.
Particulate matter can affect all of us. If you've ever been in a dust storm, that's not fine particles, but that sort of thing. Smoky rooms, those are particulates. So it can affect everyone. But one of the things is we don't get away from particulates. We are breathing particulates right now. If you've ever sat and looked at the sun coming through a glass, for example, you see particles. Those are not fine particles, but that gives you some idea of how effective our respiratory system is. Our nose and our throat is able to pick out, or collect a large percentage of this. There's things in your nose, for example, called tubernates that cause air conditioning, if you will, of the air you breathe, but also it collects some of those particles. Some of those particles get to the lungs, and the very fine particles are the ones that can affect all of us. But the thing is that because there are all sorts of particles, that's why you can never eliminate them. They're going to be there. And so that's why it's part of the ambient air standard. You've got PM 2.5, and you've got the 10, and again, our air modeler can explain those a lot better than me. But the point being, they're there not just because of a plant, but because of our daily lives, for example. This last week I was looking at a fryer, a huge 50-foot commercial fryer that was producing particulates in the factory, for example. So there's a lot of different areas where we get exposed to particulates.
And the concern is the addition of particulate matter to what's already here. Right.
That's true. Well, that's built into the ambient air standards that set the levels based on the most sensitive segment of the population, the asthmatics, the elderly, and those people that have emphysema, for example.
But to gauge that, you have to know what the particulate matter is in this area right now and what we're adding to it. And is there a model that's done that?
No, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's what Mr. Howell pointed out. The model takes into account what is here now. It adds what this plant will emit. And that combination of those two sets of numbers, and in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Howell, that combination of those two sets of numbers is what has to be submitted in order to comply with the National Ambient Air Quality Standard. It's not one or the other, it's the addition of both. So it takes both ambient and what is modeled as will be generated by this facility. And that combination results in the permit. And if we exceed that, we don't get the permit. Does that make sense? Yes.